Welcome to everybody who's signing in. We're going to give it a couple minutes while we make sure that everybody who is in the waiting room gets into the waiting room, and then we will get started. Thank you everyone for your patience. All right, do we think we're ready to get going? Emily, can you give me a thumbs up if you think? And are we officially recording? That's the most important job I have this evening.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Okay, everyone, hello. Welcome to our umpteenth annual Ithaca City School District Board of Education Candidates Forum. This year again online in this COVID/post-COVID world. My name is Meryl Phipps. I am the Executive Director at the Village at Ithaca. We are a local nonprofit that advocates for educational equity and has had the privilege of doing so for 21 years. I'm here to introduce my co-hosts and co-moderators this evening, Emily Snyder and Catherine Cernera from the ITA, the Ithaca Teachers Association, and to go over a little bit of important election information. This year's election for 4 open seats on the Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, May 16th. Polls will be open from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you need to find out where your polling location is, you can go to www.ithacacitysschools.org/vote or get some information from either the Village or ITA, any of our social media pages. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Emily Snyder and get her started with our candidates. Thank you so much.
So the first question we have is, why are you running for the Board of Education? And if elected, what will be your priorities? Katie is starting us off.
All right. So first off, thanks so much to the ITA and the Village at Ithaca for making all this happen this evening. Hi, guys. I am Katie Apker, and I'm running because we have wonderful schools, and I want to help improve them. I want to help make our district the best it can be because it plays such a central role in all of our lives, our children's futures, our teachers' lives, and our community's health and vibrancy. My perspective on the board would be beneficial for several reasons. As a child of poverty, I have firsthand experience of the transformative potential of K-12 education. For my entire adult career, I've been on the ground leading organizations as a founder and a business owner, and studying diversity, equity, and inclusion as a university researcher. I'm also the parent of 3 children in ICSD schools right now. So I'm running because I want to bring my background, my professional experience, and my perspective as a parent to help the district with the challenges it's facing. In my perspective, our children, our students are our #1 constituency, and they are all amazing. They need and deserve the empowerment of rigorous learning in a setting where they are welcomed and safe by teachers who are equipped with the resources and support staff to provide that education. Those are my priorities. I want to maintain the district's commitment to creating an environment of inclusion through anti-marginalization, through anti-racism, and through accessibility, while embracing strong learning and achievement goals. I also want to address teacher retention head-on, because without our teachers and without our support staff, without the needed professional development, we cannot deliver the education that our children need and deserve.
Well, good evening. I'm Garrick Blaylock. My reasons for running for the board are personal. I'm married to an Ithaca high school teacher, and she brings her work home a lot. So I see the successes, I see the frustrations. I got curious. I started looking into board policy and how the school district's running, and asking myself, after talking with other board members, with teachers, with parents, with students, asking myself if I could contribute. And I knew there was a vacant seat, and I looked at my background and thought I could contribute in two ways. First, I have 20 years as a social scientist and as an educator. I've done a lot of work in designing surveys and conducting experiments to try to gather data and make evidence-based decisions from that data. And secondly, although I would be new to the board if elected, I'm not new to local governance. I've served on the City of Ithaca Planning and Development Board for 10 years, and I'm also commissioner on the Board of Public Works. My priorities are to build a tax base, which I'll talk about in one of the later questions, and to try to hire and retain top teaching talent. I don't think a staffing shortage explains all the difficulties the district faces, but it explains many of them. And when there are 5 unfilled science positions in Ithaca High School and 18 unfilled special ed positions in district-wide, the burden that those positions would take fall on the other teachers, and filling them would go a long way. I'm optimistic, especially as a new contract comes to bear in 2 years, that the attractiveness of this area for people moving here and the talent that we have on in our community, in our institutions of higher education, provide a fruitful hunting ground for new teachers, and that's my priority.
I guess I'll just jump in then if I'm next on the list. Good evening, good folks. I'm Sean Eversley Bradwell. I have the honor of currently serving on the Ithaca City School District Board of Education, and for the past year serving as president of the Board of Education. I've lived in Ithaca for almost 30 years. That's jarring when I say it out loud, but that's where we find ourselves. And I've had the blessing of having my brothers-in-law, our daughter, our nieces, our nephews, and currently my grandchild as an Ithaca City School District student. So why am I running? It sort of explains my continued commitment to what is best in the best interest of our young people. My focal points, or my focus, will be continued on policy. I realize the importance of educational policy, but I'm also very much aware that policy is something that we put on paper, and it takes much more work to implement things or put things into practice. And so that will remain a focus of mine, of trying to make sure that we give people the resources they need in order to enact these policies. But most importantly, my focal point will be to continue to serve in a commitment. Being on the board requires significant amounts of time and work. On average, I probably give about 20 to 25 hours per week. I realize that may be a lot compared to other positions, but it is demonstrative of my commitment to the community. And that will remain my focal point, is to continue the commitment to serve. And I look forward to the future questions.
Hi, I'm Adam Krantwise. Thank you so much to Village of Ithaca and the ITA for inviting me to be a participant in tonight's forum. I'm running for membership to the Board of Education as an invested dad of 2 ICSD children, and as a community member who wants all students to have the best possible educational experience at ICSD. I believe that the best path to take to meet that goal is to support teachers' efforts to provide a robust educational curriculum that will allow each student to flourish. I wish to enact policies to foster an environment of excellence where current teachers are valued and supported, intelligent, vibrant teachers continue to be attracted to working in the district, and each student can reach their highest potential regardless of their starting point. And to me, this means retaining and hiring outstanding teachers, paying them a competitive salary, allowing educators to implement an enriching, challenging curriculum, and also supporting the special education program. Although nationally there's a huge teacher shortage, this doesn't have to be the trend in Ithaca, because Ithaca is an exceptional community. So I think it should be the exception as well to this national trend. As a school board member, I'll also offer continued support for ICSD's established anti-racism curriculum, while at the same time focusing on strengthening academic programs by providing funding and offering more training for teachers. To me, these are not mutually exclusive goals, but to implement them, we need to have constructive, open dialogue in which people talk with one another empathically, compassionately, and always with understanding. I want to be a community leader in having these conversations, and I've already had many of them with parents, administrators, and other community members. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be a school board candidate, and I look forward to working with you.
I'm going to jump in real quick. This is Emily Snyder. I'm the host tonight, and say that we're just going to move forward and have Chris make his statements now, because as of right now, Joe is not on Zoom with us.
Thank you, Emily. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Malcolm. I am currently serving on the board. I can't believe this is my 12th year. Pat Wazalou and I were elected at the same time. And the reason why I'm running again to serve on the Ithaca School District Board is really my commitment to improvement. When we ran for the board, we really saw that there was an opportunity for cohesiveness, for change, but also to speak out loud to the issues. And at the time, there were huge inadequacies regarding the graduation rate, the treatment of Black and Brown children within the school district, and really focusing on the others, so to speak. So if you did not fit the mold within the school district, you were not successful. And we really worked together to push that forward. And I have to say, when I met with the ITA and we did a meet and greet, one of the biggest catalysts to get me to really run was COVID. We took a huge hit during COVID. We were gaining a lot of momentum. We were getting a lot of traction, and it was a hard setback. And we're seeing the effects on our kids right now. I believe that we can reset, refocus, and really serve the needs of our kids and our adults and all of our stakeholders in this community if we take what we learned from COVID, because we were able to be extremely nimble. We were able to take away the excuses of, oh, it's always been that way, or we can't do this, and we just got it done. We have that opportunity once again, and I believe the years we lost during COVID, we can get back and improve and come together as a community, and that's why I'm running.
Hi, I'm Pat Wazalou. As Chris Malcolm mentioned, I am currently in my 12th year, at the end of my 4th term. And when I ran 12 years ago, I did not really expect to be running this long. 3 years ago, I ran because I saw COVID coming, and I thought I cannot walk away from being an experienced board member when the district's really going to need me. And now I am running as in part, as Chris said, to build COVID back up. I first ran for the board because I see the Ithaca City School District as one of the most unique in the country. And I have a reason for saying that. My job is in doing admissions for the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell, and I have been doing this for the past 23 years. And among top performing school districts, we have the most socioeconomic, racial, and cultural diversity of any school in the country. And we're not a magnet school. We're not a homogeneous suburban school. We are who we are. We speak 80 some languages. I've found my work on the board to be really rewarding. I've been able to aid a lot of our progress. And what I want to accomplish, it's interesting that Chris mentioned COVID. None of us in our statements really talked about that, but I see the learning loss, the oh my gosh, the morale loss, the mental health issues, the stresses from COVID to be really huge. And I see this as a time to build back. And I pretty much agree with what everyone said about why they want to run for the board. We want the same things. Thank you.
Okay, we are on to the next question. As a board member, how do you plan to connect with all members of the community, including caregivers, students, and school staff, outside of board meetings? We're starting with Garrick.
Yeah, I think the short answer is the best way is in person. When I decided to run for the board in January, I thought if I was elected, I didn't want my first day in the boardroom to be the first day I was elected. So I've been going to the school board for the last few months, and I found the time before the meeting and after the meeting, and when the board is in executive session, as a great time to get to know people and hear voices. But in my experience, the board meeting itself, as the question asked, and my time at the planning board has told me that board meetings with rules of order are not a good time to exchange information. That has to take place before the board meeting. So my focus would be on in-person meetings, but not in the boardroom. I would be careful to follow the rules of open meeting, but going to PTA meetings, I know like Dr. Tripp has office hours, meeting with people where they are in person in advance of big board meetings, I think is the right way to go.
Yeah, I'll just jump right in since I'm going to follow the order, and I will double on everything that Garrick just said. In my time on the board, I hope that folks have found me to be available multiple times via email, phone calls, Zoom meetings, meetings at Wegmans, attending community events, being present in the community. That is one of the ways in which we have to. And I realize that in many regards asks people to come to me. So I also would like to return to some of our pre-COVID practices, which would be holding meetings in schools, visiting school days organized by and for board members, attending PTA meetings. And I'm blessed in my current position as a faculty member at Ithaca College that I get invited into schools on a regular basis. So be it for reading days, be it to guest lecture, be working with Boynton 7th graders coming up on their viewing of the film Harriet at Cinemapolis in a couple weeks. That's the idea. So one is to be available, and two, to be as proactive as possible, including having regular meetings with our union leadership.
Okay. Yeah, well, first, I think in order for all of the aforementioned people to feel connected, we need to see, or I'd like to see a more transparent, responsive and collaborative school board. I think the school board needs to show parents that they're heard by responding to their concerns quickly and with substance. And such a school board would foster positive relationships with parents, teachers, and students who would see it as open and see it as approachable. During school board meetings, I would like to see public comments move to the beginning of the board meeting so that they can be considered and discussed on the same day in the closed meeting that follows, rather than at the next meeting. I think this is both a symbolic and practical gesture because it shows that those who bring concerns to the meetings are not only heard, but also that their concerns will be considered in real time. On a more practical level, I'd welcome the opportunity to talk with community members, make sure to visit schools, and always talk to members of the student council and other interested students to form a strong relationship with them.
We're going to move right to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. I really can echo everyone's sentiment. I think we're all in agreement, but I would really go back to pre-COVID communication, being in schools, visiting often, attending student committee meetings, public gatherings and functions. We have some of the best events. Oh gosh, I just lost. Well, if any of our activities that we have on it, whether it be a musical in the school or any of our functions, we have some of the best choreographed theater in upstate New York, and we have the best turnout as well. So making sure that we're present and visible there. And Sean actually alluded to it. We do also need to recognize that we make ourselves available, but we also make ourselves available to the good, the bad, and the ugly, and taking that into account, because no school district is perfect. So we need to also organize in a manner where we can receive that information and also respond in a way that is timely, communicative, and healthy. And I think that's been lacking in a few years, because Adam did say some people don't feel heard. And also, we need to explain to the public that not everything can be shared, okay, especially in a public setting. And respect for confidentiality is extremely important. So I think we have an opportunity to educate and share, and that will make us look human and approachable as well.
Okay, well, I will say, like my fellow board members who have served, the COVID years have taken a lot away from from public communication. People who are not on the board may not know that a lot of policies and discussions are addressed in committee meetings, which are also open to the public, and being online has allowed, I think, more people to attend those. One thing I've noticed is that none of us meet everyone in the community. Everyone kind of has their own community. You know, my community is kind of South Hill, Ithaca College, Cornell. Other people, you know, a couple the former teachers have a wide range of acquaintances within that area. And as 9 members, we all come in and we share the views of our constituency and do so respectively. And then, you know, for general public, the produce section of Wegmans is where I get an awful lot of my business done. So, like everyone else in town.
These are great thoughts. I like that, Pat. And quite frankly, for my part, as a parent of children at 3 different schools, I can't help but be out in the community. And it's because of my time involved in the schools and community that my opportunity to run for our school board arose. It was by regularly talking to my children's teachers, volunteering at school events, communicating with other teachers and school staff and our school's leadership, showing up at community events, staying in touch with other parents and caregivers, and then serving on other community boards. And as I go forward, I'm committed to continuing these patterns of behavior of being available. And as a member of a board of education that represents all of our community, I'm likewise committed to showing up and opening up and listening and learning from the students, caregivers, and teachers from all of our schools across the district.
Thank you all so much. Just a gentle reminder to make sure you're always looking at the timer. Pay attention to that. It's very helpful. We know there's a lot that you're doing at once. So on to our next question. The ICSD is committed to being an anti-racist school district. It is engaged in many initiatives to support this. Is this a commitment you share? Please explain.
Yeah, I share ICSD's commitment to supporting an anti-racist school district. The district has made fantastic progress on this. We need to keep it and we need to build on it. And marginalized students need to be supported. And if I'm elected to the board, I look forward to collaborating with existing board members and learning from the efforts they've already made to remove barriers that exclude people from educational opportunities. No one should feel, underserved, ostracized, harassed, persecuted, or sidelined in our community. And it seems imperative to determine empirically how to measure the success of the initiatives that are already in place, not only to gauge progress, but also to determine where to place efforts as we move forward. An anti-racist school district can support all students to reach their maximum academic potential while also nurturing social emotional learning. And since teachers are implementing many of these initiatives, they need continued training surrounding both anti-racism and academics to ensure all of the goals of the school district are being met.
Thanks. I'm hoping at some point in time we get some opportunity to unpack this constant linking of excellence and equity and making them sure they're not mutually exclusive. Do I support this work? We have no option. Or rather, I'd like to know what the alternative is. We have no option to be an anti-racist school district. And as I've written elsewhere, for me, that also means we have no option to be an anti-sexist school district or an anti-ableist school district or anti-marginalist school district. We have no option. The history of education is one that's complex, that has always been about granting wider and increased access. And in fact, it's been less than 50 years, where we've guaranteed all children access to a free and appropriate public education. We're new at this. We're trying to get our arms around it and better understand it. And so I greatly appreciate that we need tangible measures and metrics. And I also know that data isn't going to provide all the story. And so while it's taken us some time to provide access, now that we have access, let's pay attention to the experiences of our students. Let's ask them, and then we'll know if we're an anti-racist school district.
Do I support anti-racist teaching and learning in our school district? Absolutely. What I'd like to do is, first of all, have us recognize and acknowledge that we have systemic racism within our schools that affects our teachers, our service providers, and most importantly, our children. And I think what we've seen is a struggle just to acknowledge that. And that's where we have room to grow. And it's not a bad thing, because we are just starting to scratch the surface on this. I had 4 kids go through the Ithaca City School District, and I'm actually sorry that they did not get to experience, participate, and learn with what we have going on now. I have the benefit of having a grandchild who is experiencing this, and I can tell you that her experience is totally different. So I've seen the growth, I see our opportunity, but also I see the resistance. And if we go into this thinking that we're not going to see further resistance, we're lying to ourselves. So my whole goal is, how do we do this as a community? How do we continue to grow and understand what we're doing and how it's benefiting us? And so we can really move forward. I believe that we always have to give folks a compelling why to make sure that they understand what they're doing. So that's really why I support this.
Chris, I think that is so wonderful that your grandchild is getting the benefit of what everyone's been working for over the past decade. And my white grandchild is also getting the benefit of an anti-racist curriculum. It's important for everyone. I was reminded that when I ran for the school board 12 years ago, there was another candidate who wanted to abolish all AP and honors classes at the high school because very liberal person somehow felt that students of color would not be able to do that work. I mean, that's a racist thought, one of the most racist thoughts I ever saw in the school. I think it's so important to give students equitable supports, which don't mean equal supports, supporting the students who need more fully, and giving everyone access to what this district can really provide for education.
I love these ideas. Our district has absolutely been a front runner in its commitment to anti-racism and anti-marginalization, as Sean said, anti-sexism. And as a diversity, equity, and inclusion scholar myself, I applaud all of the brave work that's been done. ICSD really is a leader in this. And yes, I'm committed to maintaining this collective goal of crafting an environment of inclusion for all of our amazing children to learn and grow within. I'm also hopeful that as we move forward, we can bind together as a community. We do need to continue to identify and address individual and structural sources of racism and barriers to accessibility. We do need to equip our teachers with the tools to help students and families navigate this complex landscape. And I see the most successful outcomes of inclusion really being achieved as we maintain mutual respect and unity as we grapple through this brave work.
Yes, I'm in broad agreement with what others have said. We need an anti-racism component to our curriculum, and the board and district need to take an active stance to have policies that measure our success empirically. I think we all agree on that. I think the thing maybe I would add, since I had the benefit of going last, is the first thing I did when I thought about running for school board was to pull Dr. Bradwell's dissertation from the Cornell Library. And what I'd say to all of us at the table is he was modest and didn't say so, but he's really the authority on providing the historical perspective and goes back literally hundreds of years and talks about the progress we have made. And reading that and learning that really provided me enormous richness to understand the context that we face today. So I just encourage everyone to do that if you haven't already.
All right, the next question, Chris, we'll start with you after I finish the question. How do you think we can best support kids and families whose needs aren't currently being met by our school system?
One, we have to acknowledge that their needs aren't being met. We need to create a space where they can share their experiences and ask a basic question: how can we help? And we've done things in the past where we've changed meeting times to help single parents or parents who work different shifts or aren't accessible. I know we had a presentation from the folks at Cayuga Heights last week, and they really showed how they engaged with families and really made an effort to be there for them and be where they're at. So I think we need to, and I said this earlier, think outside the box and not say, oh, well, we can't do it, and this is the structure, and this is how it's always been. So if we ask them and say, well, what will work for you? What are you looking for? And make an offer and say, well, would this be appealing? Would this work? And we actually have to own our piece, because, depending on what the need is or whose needs aren't being met, we have to flex, because we're taking a rigid system and trying to force it on people and fit their circumstances. And that's not realistic. So I think we need to ask the question, we need to be open to receive it and ask how we can make this possible. That's going to increase communication. That's going to actually build trust. And it's going to actually make us better, because that's going to break down silos and walls so that other groups who will see us as a barrier or non-inclusive or non-approachable will say, wow, I can reach out to them and we can get this done.
As I've been reflecting on this question, I think one of the points that Sean made in the last question about how recent inclusion of various groups in our school system has been. I think a lot about how many parents and caregivers do not have a positive image of their time at school for exactly a lot of the issues that we've been discussing, and that can really impede their engaging with their children's schools, and they're sending a positive message to their children. And I think that our elementary schools especially have tried to become more welcoming and more inclusive as we go, but it's not just low income or low resource students who struggle here. And it's a challenging school system, it's a challenging district, and there are many, many groups. And I think that at the secondary level, the support of various clubs, activities, and sports so that students can find affinity groups also helps older children.
I'd say first, we must listen. Some voices are small and other voices are often silent until coaxed. We need to be attuned to these voices. And I think we know great places to start. Special education students, students below and above grade level benchmarks, English language learners, and students who may face marginalization due to race, to class, to gender, etc. An effective board must proactively gather feedback from these children and their families and then listen and hear it. Additionally, teachers, as those in the classrooms every single school day, are also especially well positioned to inform the board with thoughtful feedback and then to serve as advocates for students who may need them. We can also, as Garrett's mentioned, listen to hard data, the scores, attendance records, grades, the surveys that ICSD conducts. These are all rich sources of information that the board can synthesize along with the voices of the individuals to respond with effective and really empathetic action.
To me, the first step in meeting needs is to identify the needs. And it's great to ask and listen, but that's not enough. We need to be experimental in uncovering the needs. I'll give you one example. I think a great example is the community closet at Ithaca High School in the library. We had some librarians who noticed that there were students who didn't have appropriate clothes. They got some clothes, they put it in a closet and made it available to those who wanted it, no questions asked, and it took off. And that program has now expanded to provide food, to provide toiletries, and a lot of self-care services to students who can't get those things at home. I think the important thing with that program is that students aren't going to raise their hand and say, I need a toothbrush. They don't want to say that, but they have that need. And when we uncover that need and we meet it, the support for that program is overwhelming. Donations have been flowing in. So I think I cite Community Closet as the best example.
Well, great. Thank you. Let me begin by saying, Garrick, I appreciate the embarrassment. We write dissertations with the expectation that nobody will ever read them. So if folks do take a look at it, that's very humbling. How do we best support kids and their families whose needs aren't currently being met by our school system? First, let's become an anti-racist school district. That would go a long way. This is also the constant goal of a school district, right? It's outreach and resources. I regularly like to say not all, but each of our students. We need to be focused on each of our students. And I would actively encourage our community to check the ICSD equity report card, which has some of the harsh data that people are referring to in the metrics. But I'm going to revert back to my father, who would always tell me, if I want to know something, ask. You want to know how I'm feeling? Ask. You want to know how I'm doing? Ask. And do you want to know what I need? Ask. And so for folks who are on here who have not completed the STEP employee or the parent or caregiver survey, I encourage you to do so. It will mean that we have to move resources, rightfully so. And just as one issue, and I know my time has run out, but as one issue, we knew coming back from COVID that mental well-being of our students would be a significant area of focus. And we've matched a budget to ensure that we've supported and have people in the buildings to support the mental well-being of our young people. There is an example of asking and then meeting a need.
Those are good, some good points. I like this question a lot because it's apropos to the job that I do every day. I'm a clinical psychologist, and when I conduct comprehensive psychological assessments for school-age kids, my job is to use the evaluation process to determine needs and then make a plan to meet those needs. The assessment process involves two parts, some subjective evaluation, but also objective testing. So I'm already experienced in seeing a whole person, first by listening, understanding, and evaluating, and then by collaborating with teachers, parents, physicians, and school psychologists to write specific plans to address the academic and social emotional needs of children, and then in working with the school district to engender meeting them. And keep in mind, children can't be examined outside of the family unit, so addressing kids' needs always involves the families. So the school district can fully address the needs of each student by identifying students in need, identifying what they need, making sure that we have staff to address these needs, and then allocating resources appropriately. And I believe we have enough resources in the community to accomplish this for every student.
So why should I go now?
I'll read the question.
Okay. All right.
No worries. Yeah, this is our last question. Because if you'll notice, we now have a 2-minute timer on. And this is like the bookend. Why should voters choose you for the ICSD Board of Education?
Thank you. I think that voters should choose me because of my length of service and commitment to the school district, but also my willingness to learn and grow and try to adapt to the ever-growing needs of our community and our children. I don't believe that we have a one-size-fits-all model. I think that we are able to really look at situations and do some outside of the box thinking. And I am totally against the statement of this is how we've always done it. I've seen the growth within our school district. I've seen the progress, and I believe that we can work together to move this district forward for all the students, all the caregivers, all the staff. And we can definitely focus on it in its entirety. We already have a great school district. Everyone spoke to that. And I think that we can do this together when I'm elected.
I probably also won't use my full 2 minutes for this. I am not particularly good at saying why I'm better than other people at things. And every candidate here has good reasons for running for the board and has put out good ideas and sounds like they're going to work hard. And having that dedication to working hard and bringing some expertise and listening to others is what I would define as a good board member. Like Chris, I bring experience. What I bring differently is an incredibly broad perspective on education that really goes around the world. And in my work at my day job, I'm constantly looking at best practices in education in sometimes over 100 countries in the world in a 4-month period. I don't know if that's the most useful skill that I can bring, but it's something that I certainly do. When every 3 years when I run, people at my workplace come up and say, as long as I see your name on the ballot, I know that everything's going to be okay. And I appreciate their faith in me. I try to represent children, teachers, families, and our administrators who work incredibly hard and are very talented and often don't get much good press. But it's really, it's the choice of the voters, and I'm one of the choices. So thank you.
It's been so great to see so many incredibly thoughtful and dedicated and talented individuals who've worked for many years in our district. And we've made progress in many areas, but we can and must keep improving our schools and adapting to meet the unmet and evolving needs of our children and our families. I think many in the community have sensed that we have a great opportunity this election cycle to have an infusion of energy and fresh ideas to help address the immediate challenges that our district is facing. I am running because I'm dedicated to helping the district improve. As a community member and a parent, I am highly invested. I'm running not only to infuse the current board with fresh ideas and fresh energy, but because of my determination to effectuate change in a spirit of respect and collaboration with continuing board members and the community. As I mentioned before, I maintain that our children should be our focus. My priorities are ensuring the district crafts an environment of inclusion through anti-marginalization, through anti-racism, and through accessibility, so that our children will have an environment to learn and learn a lot and learn content that they're engaged with so that they are empowered to live amazing lives. Essential to that is attracting and retaining and training amazing teachers. To do this, we do need strong and strategic solutions. Driven by relevant data, we need administrative accountability, we can welcome parent engagement, and we can regularly gather input from the voices of those on the ground, our students and our teachers. It may be work, it will be work, and it may be a struggle to build schools like this, but I won't shrink away from the work because it is what our children need and deserve. And just a huge thanks again to the ITA and the Village at Ithaca for making tonight possible and facilitating this.
I think the maybe perhaps unique perspective I would bring to the board is that of a development economist. I've spent the last 10 years on the planning board trying to foster economic development in this area. And I think building the tax base is going to be a priority for me. Building the tax base is really a win-win because it brings in more revenue for our kids and lowers the rates for the existing taxpayers. So when I go to College Town and I see all that construction up and down the street, I see dollars coming in for our students, and we need to continue that. The way we continue that is to leverage and partner with the institutes of higher education and local businesses to make the public schools as strong as possible, so that when Cornell makes an offer, for example, to a new faculty hire, and that potential hire says, well, yeah, what about the public schools? Our answer has to be that they're of excellent quality. And so the right investments in the school district help Cornell, IC, and local businesses attract talent, help them grow, help them add to the tax base by the kind of new construction you see in College Town. It's a virtuous win-win cycle that we have to ensure continues. On the other side, though, it can also unravel in the same way. We can't let that happen. Last thing I'd say is by growing the tax base, we lower the tax rate. And taxes are one of the main reasons why many in our community find it difficult to afford to live in Ithaca. Lowering taxes makes it more affordable. In my field, we talk about sample attrition, people who leave and then you don't see them anymore. The people who have left this community because they can't afford to live here are people who are not at the table. So in the spirit of inclusion, I want to grow the tax base. I want to lower tax rates so that people of all types, of all backgrounds, can afford to live in this district.
I'd also like to begin by thanking the ITA and the Village at Ithaca, and again, to really highlight the work that the Village at Ithaca has been doing for decades, and particularly under Meryl's stewardship. So thank you for that work as well. I'm blessed to live in a community. I live in a community where elders encourage me to think about what I can give back, and elders who encouraged me to run for re-election, thinking that it was important for me to be at the table, to continue my role. I was having a conversation with my grandchild, my grandbaby, who walked the other day, who said, "Papa, I heard that you're gonna be on the school board again." And I said, "Well, maybe." And I said, "Do you think I should be on the school board?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, you're good at meetings." And I tried to take that for the way in which it was meant. And what I think that it meant is not that only I attend a lot of meetings. I hope what she was trying to communicate that I have a demonstrated history of facilitation of meetings. We are in challenging times, and I think, as Katie said, that require difficult and honest conversations. And again, I like to think that I have a demonstrated ability to negotiate these disagreements. And in fact, I believe disagreement is necessary in order to find the best path forward for our young people. Education is my life. I taught at LACS for a number of years. I teach in a Department of Education, teaching teachers how to become teachers. I study, I research, I practice, I teach. In fact, a teacher is one of my primary identities. It's probably how I identify myself the most. So why choose me? That's a great question. Call me, email me. Let's get coffee or tea and let's talk. Let's try to build a better community for all of our young people.
Yeah, this comes across very well.
Well, I feel very, very excited to have the chance to serve as a member of the Board of Education. I know I would do a great job if you elect me. I have different skill sets that I think would make me a good addition to the board. First, I have teaching experience. I've worked as both a summer school and substitute teacher in the New York City public school system. And I've taught several courses at Binghamton University and Cornell University. My parents are retired New York City public school teachers and administrators. My dad was a teacher who turned assistant principal before he retired. So it's kind of in the family. And as a clinical psychologist who conducts psychoeducational evaluations, I have a great deal of experience in assessment, in decision-making, in developing plans to implement changes when needed, and also experience collaborating with the school district. And as a psychotherapist, I'm capable of engaging in open dialogue, understanding the social emotional needs of school-age children, and facilitating difficult conversations. And keep in mind, the field of clinical psychology was at the forefront of assuring their members respect cultural, individual, and role differences of all people, as reflected in one of the principles of our code of conduct. If I'm elected to the Board of Education, I will do my best to support teachers' efforts to foster a robust academic experience for all students. I will be open, honest, conscientious, and always collaborative. And I intend to bring enthusiasm to discussions. I want to bring some transparency to the community and also help people work together. I think a lot of good things have been said tonight. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all of the candidates for having a discussion, and especially all the board members, current board members who have already given so much of their time. So thank you very much.
I want to thank everyone for your participation tonight. It was really wonderful hearing directly from the people who are volunteering to be such an important member of our school community. I know that I really appreciate too, honestly, as somebody who's a parent, somebody who is a teacher, somebody who is a community member who has lived here 20 years. How important it is to have this open dialogue. Thank you for everybody who participated. I really appreciate everything that happened tonight, honestly. Thank you for the openness to accept questions as well. We have encouraged people, if they would like to reach out to you, that they can email you in the chat. I know that all the candidates put their email contact information as well. It is also available on the website that the ITA has created. And feel free to, reach out to people. Everybody, this is a great time to have your voice heard. On May 16th, we have an exciting election coming up. So thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.